afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Danielle Daw. I'm the Adult Services Librarian here at the Halton Hills Public Library and your host for the special event of the Halton Hills Lecture Series. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is part of the treaty lands and territories of the Mississauga of the Credit. I also want to thank the Friends of the Halton Hills Public Library and CFUW Georgetown for their ongoing support of the Halton Hills Lecture Series. So June is Seniors Month, and today's event is offered in partnership with the Halton Age Friendly Network and Halton Regional Police Service. We especially want to thank both organizations for their support of our senior safety resource kits. And I have one here to show everyone. So these kits include information about frauds and scams, but also healthy living and community services available to older adults. So they are available at both of our branches in the month of June, but do note that quantities are limited, so we recommend you get there early. Now, please also note that the Q&A for today's lecture will take place through the chat box. So you can locate the chat in your lower menu in Zoom if you're on a computer. And if you're on a tablet or mobile device, check under More Options to locate the chat. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Constable Matthew Rocca is the Older Adult Support Officer with Halton Regional Police Service. In this position, he provides outreach, connections to support, and community services for the seniors of Halton. So today, Constable Rocca joins us to discuss safety for seniors, particularly the ever-changing information about frauds and scams. So please join me in welcoming Constable Rocca.
Perfect. Okay, so we're good?
We are good.
All right, so we'll dive into this here. I apologize for the technical glitches there. This is a government computer, and sometimes if you don't talk to it nicely, it misbehaves a bit, but I think I've talked nicely and we're good to go now. So ordinarily, this would be a face-to-face presentation, so it would be a lot more interactive. I think in the interest of time, what I will do is I will complete this presentation, I will go through all the slides, and hopefully that will afford some time at the back end for us to cover off in some question and answers, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that might arise through viewing the content that I have for this presentation. So we'll get into a brief introduction of what the kind of the meat and potatoes of this presentation is. We'll have a discussion about some of the scams that may actually be occurring right now, or ones certainly that have occurred in our region. We'll do a quick wrap up, which will include some resources, and then hopefully there'll be a little bit of time at the end that we can engage in a little bit of a question and answer period. So typically when I start this off, I ask the audience what they would refer to someone who tries to scam them or has scammed them. And usually there's some not so very nice words that are used to describe a person or people that engage in that type of behavior. But there really is a theme that I'm looking for when I raise this question up. And I didn't come from an investigative background. I spent, of my 20 years on the job, half of that was spent as a use of force trainer. So I was more inclined to teach people how to fight and shoot guns. And then I transitioned into this role, which is a little bit different than that. So I had to get a little bit more familiarized with the responsibilities of this role, one of which being the community outreach component, and predominantly it was frauds and scams. So I had to get familiarized with some of the language, some of the key players, if you will, within this type of crime. And the term that I'd seen many times was a con artist. And I had to delve a little bit further into it because it seemed that con was like some type of an abbreviation. And what I came to learn, surprisingly enough, is that the con in con artist had to do with confidence. And it actually makes a lot of sense because regardless of what type of scam is being kind of presented to you, regardless of the delivery method, because it could be telephone, it could be a door knock, a face-to-face, it could be something through email, maybe something interactively online, especially now because of the pandemic and we have these virtual platforms like Zoom, for example. There's a lot of different delivery methods, but the bottom line is, if someone's going to try and scam you, the way they're going to be able to pull it off or perhaps not pull it off is how confident they are when they actually pitch this idea, this grand idea to you. So take for example me right now. So you have this person who's been introduced to you as a police officer, but how do you really know? So because I have something on my screen that says my name and HRPS, is that enough to satisfy you? And something you could consider, um, if somebody were to knock on your door right now, would you just let them in? Or would you perhaps maybe ask some questions? One being, why are you here right now? But would you be inclined to ask them some questions first to satisfy yourself that they actually are who they claim to be before they let you into your home? So think of it this way. This might be a virtual door knock, but at the end of the day, you need to make a decision if you believe that I am who I actually claim to be. So some of the things that you can consider asking yourselves about me for me to prove that I am who I actually claim to be. So could I show you an identification? Sure, I could hold up my warrant card and my badge. If I was actually in a patrol uniform and I had the blues on, you could see a service crest and such. That might maybe lean you a little bit more into believing that I am who I claim to be. If I was physically attending your residence, perhaps if I was in a marked police vehicle, that might make you feel a little bit more confident that I am who I claim to be. Or perhaps maybe you contact our dispatch and you ask questions. Say, is this Matt guy supposed to be here? Is this person supposedly work as an older adult support officer, and he's going to be doing a presentation? But what you have there are a whole bunch of different means to satisfy yourself that in this case that I am who I claim to be. And really this kind of approach or strategy is going to be a key element in mitigating any type of chance that you're going to be defrauded, because essentially what you're doing in this case and what you would be doing if someone were to try to pitch some type of fraud or scam at you is you're putting on your detective hat and you're satisfying yourself that what you actually have in front of you is authentic. The person is who they actually claim to be, and whatever it is that's being presented to you is actually true, and that it's not some type of a fraud or a scam. So when we take into account fraud, because it could be a whole slew of different things, there's going to be certain key elements that come into play. So now, regardless of what exactly it is, whether it's a telephone call, an email, whatever the case may be, you're going to notice three common themes. So it's a lie, and because someone's trying to make some money, it's going to be a for-profit. There may be some sense of having to make a decision quick, like a pressure into having to do something right here, right now, and a sense of secrecy. So whoever it is that's speaking to you in some way, shape, or form is going to try to convince you that whatever is going on needs to be done right now, and you're not in a position to inform anybody else about it. Now, when you try to pick apart a fraud, for sure, it could be very sophisticated, it could be very complex. But the reality is you got a bunch of bandits that are trying to make a quick buck, because if they were going to make an honest buck, they'd go and get a job. But instead, they're looking for shortcuts. They're looking for a quick way to make money. So they try to be convincing, and they try to pitch something at you in the hopes that you might bite, and you might be willing to offer up some cash, that you might be willing to offer up credit card information or debit card information, or somehow they physically get a hold of your debit card or credit card, and then off to the races they go, and they play blackjack with your money, which is a problem. So on the operating end for the bandit, it's pretty straightforward, but in terms of the investigation and court trial and so on, that's where maybe things can get a little bit more complex. But it really becomes a cat and mouse game, because if a specific type of fraud or scam becomes more prevalent and the police catch on to it, well, now, okay, that is on our radar. Now we're looking for it. And the smart crooks, the ones who aren't ending up in jail, are the ones who realize, okay, maybe the jig is up. The police have realized this is what's going on. I need to come up with something different. I need to come up with something better than what I'm doing, because I don't want to get pinched and I don't want to go to jail. So it very much is a cat and mouse game when it comes to this type of crime. So we're rolling into the summer here, thank goodness, and hopefully things are going to continue to get better with it with the pandemic. But we recently departed a period of time, which for some people is maybe a happy time, for some people maybe not so much. Tax time. So myself, I'm not a numbers guy. I certainly wasn't hired for my arithmetic skills. So when I do my taxes, I go to an accountant. And at least I believe that the person I'm going to is an accountant. If he's not, he's done a good job, because he's been taking my money for like 20 years, and I haven't had any type of contact from CRA. But with the exception of the people who are just very, very sharp, they're willing to take out the pencil and start writing up their own taxes. Typically speaking, we'll take our documents to a professional. We'll take it to a chartered accountant in the hopes that they're going to do a good job, and that if for some reason things weren't done correctly, at least there's some degree of accountability, and we can go back to our accountant and say, okay, I don't know what's going on, but there seems to be some issues here. This needs to get resolved, and this is why I've retained you. This is why I paid to get my taxes done. But let's say, for example, all of a sudden you get this call, and it's somebody who purports to be a representative from the CRA, and they say to you, there's some type of a discrepancy. This is a major problem that needs to get resolved right now. You don't have time to do anything else except provide us with a means of payment. Otherwise, we're putting a warrant out for your arrest. Now, the Halton region is a very safe community. I do believe that there is a very strong relationship between the community and the police, but please, let me assure you, we do not make courtesy calls to let you know that we're coming to get you. And if anybody does, please let me know, because I need to have a chit chat with that officer or those officers. We don't let people know that they're going to be lodging with Her Majesty the Queen, and we need to fluff the pillow and get the roast beef and everything ready. We just come to arrest you. So rest assured, if someone's claiming that they're CRA and that they're going to put a warrant out for you, that's a bunch of nonsense. But the person calling could come across as very aggressive, very pushy, and force you to go against your better judgment. And then all of a sudden you're finding yourself giving information from your visa, for example, or you're receiving instruction to obtain iTunes cards or Home Depot cards or so on. And when you think about it, say right now, where hopefully people aren't too stressed, when in the world would you ever pay for anything with iTunes cards? So, hey, you know what? We're through the pandemic and I'm going to go on a vacation. I got a really good deal. All I had to do was pay with iTunes cards. That just doesn't sound right. But if you're under pressure and you have concerns that you might be in peril because you're feeling that there's something going on, and it's somebody from the government calling, that might have you make some decisions against your better judgment. And the next thing you know, you're giving up credit card information, or you're looking to purchase iTunes cards or Home Depot cards. But suffice to say, that's not how the CRA does business. Is it possible that you might get a call from the CRA? In a world of infinite possibility, anything could happen. Realistically, you're going to be getting mail correspondence, and there's certainly not going to be anything that's going to give some indication that there's immediate action that needs to be taken, or that you should have the opportunity to confer with an accountant or a lawyer or something along those lines. That's just not the way that they're going to do business. So something a little bit different. So perhaps you get a telephone call and somebody says, I'm Officer so-and-so, I'm with the RCMP, and I'm doing an investigation at your financial institution. So at your bank or your credit union or something along those lines. And there's some concerns about something that's taking place at your bank. So what we'd like for you to do is we'd like for you to withdraw some money. We're going to give you direction on where we want this money deposited, or perhaps transferred, wire transferred. But what we want you to do, because we don't want to tip anybody off, because it's an internal job, is we want you to go to another branch of your financial institution to withdraw this money. And it seems kind of odd, but again, we're trying to weigh things out. The person on the other end of the phone sounded very official, and they said this is who they are. Maybe they give some type of an identification number, something along those lines. But the thing concerning is that they're telling you to go to another branch. of your financial institution. And when you think about that, um, in this day and age, a lot of people are feeling more comfortable doing their financial transactions online, and that's okay, because the technology has really moved in that direction. And for the most part, you will find that your transactions are secure. But there's some people who do prefer to be traditional and actually show up to a wicket and speak to a teller and conduct their financial transactions in person. And the advantage of that is that if you frequent your branch, more often than not, the staff get to know you and you get to know them. So they get to know what your normal is and they get to know what your abnormal is. So if you were to go to your branch and all of a sudden say, I want to withdraw so many thousands of dollars, hopefully the person on the other end of that wicket's going to say, well, like that seems kind of out of sorts for you. What do you need the money for? And then all of a sudden, maybe the red flag gets raised. We get a telephone call, and hopefully that money will stay in your bank account. But if you go to another branch, even though it might be your financial institution, maybe the person that you deal with is not so on the ball, and perhaps they're not asking the critical questions. Why do you need this money, and what are you looking to do with it? And again, it's something that maybe you're going against your better judgment, and the next thing you know, now you're out a considerable amount of money. And unfortunately, if it's something that's going to end up going electronically, it can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to recover it, right? So something a little bit different, but again, concerning, and certainly this is something that has occurred in our area. You get a phone call early in the morning, and it's a young voice on the other end of the phone. Maybe a boy's voice, or maybe a girl's voice. Grandma, grandpa, it's me, it's me, it's me. And you're a little bit taken off guard because of the time of the call, and then you inadvertently give up information. You say, well, who is this, Sarah? And the person on the other end of the phone is sitting there going, is now. Because what they've done is they've deliberately called at a time where where the intent is to take you off guard. So now you've involuntarily given up information and now built that person's credibility. So when they say, I'm in Europe, I'm stuck here, I was in a car accident, I've been arrested, please don't tell mom and dad, please don't tell the family, but I need X amount of money for medical treatment, I need X amount of money to get myself out of jail, and here's the information for Western Union or some type of electronic money transfer service. And now you feel panicked. You feel there's immediate need to do something. You're going against your better judgment and saying, okay, well, wait a minute, where would Sarah actually be right now? There's a pandemic going on. How would she even be able to get to Europe or wherever this person purports to be? And now you're sending money. And again, the likelihood of trying to recover those funds is incredibly challenging, if not impossible. And it really comes down to a sense of awareness and knowing, in this case, where your loved ones are. And again, recognizing those themes. It's a lie for financial gain. There's that sense of urgency, that sense of secrecy. And although this is very different from the previous two examples, we start to see a recurring theme or recurring themes when it comes to these types of financial crimes. Now, regardless of the delivery method, so whether this is a telephone call, an email, something interactive online, there is kind of a risk-reward situation. So say, for example, so I've got a sweet tooth, I like chocolate chip cookies. I get a door knock, and again, like this is going a little bit out of the norm because we're in the pandemic right now, so you're gonna have to roll with me on this. But I get somebody knocking the door who claims to be a girl guide and is selling cookies. So I got a sweet tooth, I like chocolate chip cookies. This person seems to fit the part. They have a uniform on. It looks like there's a chaperone there. Maybe I was aware through the newspaper, social media, and so on that there's some type of a fundraising drive on the go. And that box of cookies is $5. So I'm willing to risk $5 that actually is a box of cookies. So I buy it, thank you very much, close the door, go into my kitchen, crack open the box, and it turns out to be a bunch of rocks. So in this case, The risk versus reward was I was willing to give up $5 on the belief that everything that was in front of me appeared to be authentic and true. And in the grand scheme of things, okay, I'm out a $5 bill because I wanted some cookies and that's what I thought that they were. But now, if you get into a situation where the stakes are considerably higher, there might be that temptation to kind of go with whatever is being presented to you. So regardless of the medium in which this is presented to you, you're made aware that you're the winner of some type of lottery, or that you have a fifth or sixth cousin that has passed and has left you a whole bunch of money. And in order to obtain an inheritance or to claim these winnings, you're going to have to pay some basic fees. Now you're going to be looking to get about $1 million, but you're going to have to pay roughly about $1,000. And the reason for that is that there's taxes to be paid, there's tariffs, there's government charges, and everything sounds very legitimate. And all you need to do is wire transfer this information, and this way we'll know where we're going to be sending the money to. So now you send off that $1,000, you don't get $1 million, and now you're out that $1,000. Because it's something that was done electronically, and very difficult, if not impossible, to try to recover it. And it's that risk versus reward. So $1,000, it's a drop in the bucket if you're looking to potentially be getting $1 million, right? But now we need to kind of weigh things out, and does that really kind of make sense, right? Let's say you get some type of contact even from somebody who claims to be from a bank, right? A strategy that you could use to kind of size the situation up is just reverse the situation. So if you called your bank or your credit union, would they just arbitrarily give up information? Would they give up your account information, tell you, okay, here's the amount of money that's in this account, we'll just send this money here, we'll send this money there? In all probability, they're not going to give up any of that information because they don't know who's on the other end of that phone. So you're going to probably have to answer a whole series of questions before you're going to be able to get any type of transactions taking place with your account, because they're protecting you. So the same should hold true if somebody calls you or sends you some type of electronic correspondence claiming that they're a representative of a bank or a credit union. So they're certainly not going to be, like, if it's legitimate, they're not going to be asking for any type of information. They're not going to be releasing any type of information if the tables were turned and it was the other way around. So that's something to consider when you're receiving that call as well, right? Because they simply don't know who it is, and there's going to have to be some steps that come into play to verify who's on the other end of that phone. So again, whether it's a door knock, whether it's a telephone call, whether it's something virtual, you're not going to let somebody into your house until you know definitively who they are and why they're actually there. So going back to this concept of a con artist and the confidence, it really comes down to the believability of what the person has to say. And this next example is something interesting. It's something that happened in the United States. So there was this criminal who clearly wasn't a very good criminal because he kept getting arrested all the time. But what was really unusual is that this person seemed to escape charges, and if the person actually was convicted and went to jail, they seemed to get out pretty quick. And that was a recurring theme. So now all of a sudden people are kind of starting to wonder, well, how is this possible? And in a case like that, it is common that if a situation like that were to occur, that there's a possibility that that person might be an informant. Okay, so you've somehow procured information that can further an investigation. And when it comes to acknowledging what an informant is able to provide, there's going to be some type of reward for that. Sometimes an informant might be given a financial compensation, so they'll get some money for it, or it is possible that an informant may ask for consideration. And what I mean by that is that I'm willing to give you information that can help further your case in exchange for my charge, or my charges to be withdrawn, or my period of incarceration to be reduced. So now all of a sudden they're trying to figure out, well, how in the world does this person seem to be getting their hands on all this information? And they were able to piece together a very crafty strategy that this criminal would use. So what this criminal would do is, from the jail, they would contact a police station and throw a convincing pitch. Hi, this is Detective Sergeant Bill Smith from Halton Homicide. I'm wondering if I could speak to so-and-so from your unit about this homicide that's going on. Yeah, I just want to trade notes real quick because this is kind of where I'm at right now. And what that criminal would do is actually obtain information from the police about a case, like case-sensitive information. They get the information, they contact their lawyer and say, hey, I'm in the yard right now. I heard some guys over talking this, that, the other, and I want to reach out to the Crown Attorney's office, and I want to turn this information over in exchange for a reduced sentence, in exchange for a withdrawal of charges. And when they realized what was going on, obviously the jig is up, and then that stopped. But it just goes to show that if the police can be duped, anybody can be duped. And that's what our job is. Our job is to catch these people, and go figure, this is somebody who's doing this from behind bars, right? So it just goes to show that there's much to be said about the power of suggestion. Now, kind of shifting gears just a little bit, this might not be something that's so prevalent right now because with the pandemic and with business closures, you might not be out and about so much, and you might not necessarily be in a real congested spot. But let's say, for example, you're at a store, you're at the checkout, and you're using your credit card, and you have decided that you want to use your PIN, your personal identification number, because for some reason you're not confident using tap. And because we're in a safe community, and because we don't want to give the impression that we're rude, we don't take that initiative to cover the point of sale terminal when we're typing our PIN in. So the person who seems to be standing close and maybe not paying attention is actually paying very close attention, because what they're doing is they're observing and memorizing the numbers that you're typing in on that point of sale terminal. Or perhaps when you thought that they had their phone out and they were, maybe it seemed like they were sending a text message or whatever, they were actually photographing or filming you enter that information from your credit card or debit card. That's step one. Step two, you're at your car and you're loading your groceries into the car. The person says, hey, let me help you out with that. Or they come up and say, sir, ma'am, you've dropped something. Tell you what, how about I'll put this in your wallet for you so you don't drop it again. And then with the magician's sleight of hand, they happen to thumb out a credit card or credit cards or debit cards, which may very well all have the same PIN for simplicity's sake. And now you're thinking, oh, that was so kind that that person put that back into my wallet or my purse, when now they're about to go on that shopping spree because they've been able to get a hold of your credit card, credit cards, or debit card or cards, right? And that kind of thing can happen even to somebody who's reasonably cautious, tries to be mindful of the people around them, because that's going to be that critical moment in time when they're at that point of sale terminal and they have chosen to use their PIN and enter the numbers as opposed to using the tap, which is by far a better way to go, right? But we can talk about that in a couple seconds. But that is definitely something that occurs in the Halton region, as well as just the outright theft of a wallet or purse from, say, a shopping cart, because as you're at the aisle and now you're looking around and trying to select something, somebody walks up and now they just outright take your purse or your wallet, and now they're off to the races with all of your cards, right? So something a little bit different. So depending on a given situation or given condition, anyone can be vulnerable. So this is not about trying to specifically say an age demographic. So let's say, for example, you're on the highway, you're on the roadway, and all of a sudden something happens with your vehicle. Maybe you're trying to avoid a collision. There's something on the highway. Transport truck's tire is exploded. You're swerving out of the way. You almost get into a collision, and now you're very, very shaken. But thankfully, a tow truck driver pulls up and says, just take it easy. I'm here for you. I'm going to help you. We'll get your car someplace safe. I'll help you call someone if you need some help. Let's just get this piece of paper signed off real quick so I can load up your car, and I'll try and help you out. And what you have inadvertently done, depending on what tow company is present, is now obligated yourself to a tow that could easily get into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And now you've also obligated yourself to utilize the body shop if you were actually in a collision. And now you're going to be obligated to pay an exorbitant amount of money for your repairs, or you have to pay an exorbitant fee to be able to get released from that contract. And it's all in the legalese, it's all in that ultra fine print, but you're not really focused on that. You're focused on giving a signature because this very helpful tow truck driver has decided that they're going to help you, and now all of a sudden you're being victimized by the criminal enterprise within the towing industry, which is absolutely remarkable how nefarious it is. So something to keep in mind: you don't put your seatbelt on after you get into the car accident. You make sure you get your seatbelt on before you drive. It's very important, and it can save you a lot of troubles at the back end, to take the initiative to put a tow plan together for yourself. So some type of roadside assistance, we don't need to promote any specific one, but having some type of roadside assistance available, and being in a position to specifically request that company. Um, you could always call the police if there's some type of motor vehicle issue and say, I would like for the police to dispatch a tow company. If you have one of preference, great. If there's one that you trust, or one in relation to your roadside assistance, or depending on what the situation is, maybe you contact your insurance company and you let them know what's going on so they can assist you in making better arrangements. And it's not to say that all tow truck companies are bad, because there are some good ones, but there's also bad ones, and ones that wouldn't think twice about taking advantage of you, or referring you to an auto body shop that is looking to take advantage of whoever comes through the doors, right? So the towing plan, a very, very beneficial thing to do. Not being afraid to contact the police if you need some type of motor vehicle assistance. The dispatchers will be happy to dispatch a tow for you. If there's one of preference, or your roadside assistance plan gives you direction, or perhaps your insurance company gives you direction on who they would like to have attend to assist you. So the key thing here, regardless of whether this is a telephone call, this is an email, this is maybe a tow, is you want to do everything you can to mitigate any type of risk and any type of troubles that are going to carry on forward as a result of what's happening right here and right now. So we all have that spidey sense, that gut feeling that if something's too good to be true, it probably is. If something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right. And rather than feeling rushed to make a decision, um, like in policing, it's very, very rare that we'll need to make a decision right here, right now. In fact, good judgment would suggest that we actually want to put a freeze on things, slow things down, get the full context of the situation, and then make better decisions and come up with a better strategy with how we're going to deal with whatever it is that we're facing, right? So if we're talking some type of a financial issue, the police are definitely there to help you, and we want to do everything we can to support you. But the key thing to keep in mind is that the police are not going to be able to are not going to be the ones who are going to be able to freeze assets and put a stop on things. So if there's some type of concern with respect to your finances, the first step will be to contact your financial institution first. So whether it's your bank or your credit union, for example, maybe your credit card company, contact them first and let them know what's going on. And then the next call, give us a call. When it comes to a police response, if we're talking about a life-threatening situation, or we're talking about an active crime in progress, that's when you want to call 911. But if it's not life-threatening, if it's not an active crime in progress, that's when you can call a non-emergency number, because you might be in another jurisdiction, for example, right? But that's just something to keep in mind in terms of the prioritization. Now, if you're interested in obtaining more information about frauds that have occurred in the past or frauds that are occurring now. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is an absolutely fantastic resource. The phone number is up on this slide. And if you did, for example, a Google search for Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, you'll notice that it is a federal government website, and you can search through that. And perhaps maybe there have been some type of incidents that you've personally come across, and you may find out, oh, wow, this actually occurs all over the place. This may occur across Ontario, across Canada. This might even be something international, for example. But this is a resource with regard to data. They're not investigators, they're simply data compilers. So they will have a whole slew of data on crimes, financial crimes that have occurred and are actively occurring. So very, very relevant offenses as well. So in a more broad scope. So this might not just be a matter of financial crime. This could be any type of crime. This could be some type of a situation where you need support and you're not sure where to turn. Right? There is a non-government organization, is Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario, and what they have, it's called the Senior Safety Line. It's a toll-free number, and that's up on this slide here. And the real amazing thing about this resource, in addition to being free, is that it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is counselors who are specifically trained to provide guidance and support to older adults. And what's even more amazing is that there are up to 150 languages spoken. So if you need support, or someone you know needs support, and perhaps English is not their primary language, by contacting this number, they will navigate through their counselors to identify someone who could speak the same language as the person who needs support. So it's an absolutely phenomenal resource, and it is a free resource, which is absolutely amazing. In this day and age, there certainly is a cumulative effect of stress, and it can get the better of anybody. That's not something that's going to discriminate with age. So a really nice resource that's available through the region is Distress Center Halton. So the number that's up on this slide is toll free. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're crisis volunteers. They're specifically trained. They are there to lend an ear. They're there to offer verbal support. They're also there to make suggestions in terms of community referrals within our regional municipality. And a really nice feature that is offered through Distress Center Halton is telecheck. So this is something that needs to be registered online, but this is basically, it's really nice to hear your voice. And this is not something specific to older adults. You can see on this slide, there are a number of groups that the Distress Center Halton is willing to offer up the telecheck program to. And it is a wonderful resource. And again, it is free. There is, pull this up here. So there, if you were to look online through Distress Center Halton, you can see that there is a registration prompt, but there also is a contact as well. I've included that on this slide. So if you need some support in terms of completing the application to get enrolled in the telecheck program, or you're looking to try to enroll somebody in the telecheck program, there is support available for that. Now, if, for example, you have some type of legal issues and there are some financial constraints in terms of getting some type of legal direction, a very wonderful resource, and again, this is free, is the Advocacy Center for the Elderly. So this number that's there is a toll-free number. These are qualified lawyers, and they specifically focus on matters pertaining to older adults. So they can help with providing some legal information that can hopefully point you in the right direction. And depending on what type of financial constraints you're dealing with, there certainly is a possibility that they can assist with providing legal support. So whether it's the Advocacy Center personally, or they provide you with additional resources for legal support. And that could be a legal aid, for example. They're phenomenal when it comes to that. And they are very well-intentioned folks. They're very talented with what they do. This is what they specialize in. And the nice thing is that that is something that is offered free of charge. So my information is, as I wrap this up, so my role with the police, I am a police officer, even though I haven't showed you any identification or I'm not wearing a uniform, I work in the Regional Community Mobilization Bureau. So this is kind of our community outreach office. And my role is essentially that of a community navigator. So if there's some type of matter that would be crime or public safety, that's something that would be kind of initiated through uniform patrol. And once patrol conducts its initial investigation, the occurrence is screened by a supervisor, and then a supervisor decides what is the next step. So perhaps if there isn't anything more to it in terms of authority for police to engage further, then maybe it stops there. Maybe there will be further investigation, and that could be perhaps by a specialized unit. Maybe it might be by an older adult investigator, or if it's determined that this is something that's more kind of a community-oriented matter, it may make its way to me, and then I would follow up to see if there's any, for example, type of community supports that I could try to align that person with. So my information is there as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the rest of the story. So what I will do is I'm going to back out of this, and I will now open the floor to any questions that you may have.
So if anyone has any questions, you can type them in the chat box at this time. We can see the chat box and we'll answer them as they come up. In the meantime, Constable Rocca, I had two questions actually that I thought of as we were going through the presentation.
Sure.
So you mentioned that there are pre-approved towing companies. I'm just wondering if that information is available now, or if that's something someone would have to call at the time of an accident to get access.
Okay, phenomenal question. So the police have a rotational list. So if for whatever reason you needed the assistance of a tow company, let's say you just got a flat tire, maybe you're at you're at a Go parking lot, maybe you're at the mall, maybe you're somewhere where your vehicle won't start, or you've got a flat tire and you need the support. If you contact the police and you say, I would like I would like for police to arrange for a tow company to assist me, the police will contact companies that have been vetted by police. So that means the drivers have been screened, the company's been screened, the trucks have been screened to ensure that they comply with the provisions of the Highway Traffic Act. There is a prescribed fee schedule. And this way you're not going to get scammed in a nutshell. So they have the communications unit would have that list, and basically it would be, okay, we've contacted ABC 123 towing. Okay, next on the list, the next on the rotational list will be Acme towing. And then the next on the list is going to be Beta towing, and then so on and so forth. So the bottom line is, if you need the support for whatever it is, collision or not, but you need some type of assistance from like a tow support, give us a shout, and we'll help, and we'll make sure we get you aligned with the appropriate one. And then what I would even say further to that is, when a tow does show up, take that initiative and ask them, are you the tow company that the police contact? And if you're feeling that you're getting a hinky answer, call the communications unit back again and say, it's Acme Towing that's here. Is this supposed to be showing up? And if they say no, then you can politely tell them to carry on, because you're waiting for a specific tow company.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that information. And a question has come in here while we were talking.
Okay.
So somebody has mentioned that they lost some money through their financial institution. Someone had broke into the online banking and moved some money from one account to the other. So it was resolved, but they said it was very scary, and they're just wondering if that is something common that happens in Halton Hills.
So if there is any type of recurring crime, typically that's something that would get communicated throughout the service, because that could help us out region-wide, because who knows if that's going to be something that occurs in other cities or towns, or that occurs in other jurisdictions. So it's certainly of benefit for us to know. Personally, I can't say that there is anything in particular, because our service is very good about interdepartmental communication. Obviously, it does happen, but as long as you're diligent in terms of identifying it, making sure you notify the financial institution of that discrepancy that you see, and then you can even take it a step further and notify police as well, because you might get direction from the financial institution, but if you're not getting a satisfactory answer, then I would say there's certainly nothing wrong with contacting the police as well to say, this is what's happened, I'm just unsure of what's going on. It's a lot easier to give us a shout and we can tell you, yeah, well, you don't need to worry about that, you're good to go, or ooh, maybe we're going to come and investigate. But don't be afraid to give us a call.
And on the line of financial institutions, one of the questions I thought of while you were doing the presentation, you mentioned a lot about confirming someone's ID. So whether that is through the financial institution, someone who's shown up at your door, a family member, do you have any tips for the audience on maybe just some good questions to ask? Is there any kind of tried and true methods that really work in those situations?
So I think just having a systematic approach to whatever this is. So like if you've specifically reached out to some type of service, is the person showing up with some type of attire? Like, are they wearing a uniform shirt? Is there a whole uniform? Is their vehicle showing the indications that it is part of that business? Has the person shown a business card? Does that person have any type of letterhead or any type of contractual information that's showing the letterhead on it? Was there an agreed fee for service? Do you have paperwork that's confirming that that exactly is what's taking place? Has information been given specifically on the person that's showing up? So if you have certain things that are in place or certain expectations of what you believe this interaction to be, take the necessary steps to confirm that and satisfy yourself. And I mean, a very good strategy is always just to reach out to whatever that company is. So if you've called out and you've got some concerns, call the company. So if I called Acme Lawn Care, I can say, yeah, I've got this person here. They don't appear to be in Acme uniform. They don't have an Acme vehicle. They don't have any Acme documentation, and then just go through that, because realistically, somebody who is authentic and who they're presenting to be really shouldn't be taking issue to the fact that you're just asking for some clarification. And say, for example, if I was going to call the bank and say, this is what I'm trying to do, and now all of a sudden it seems like I'm being put through checks and balances, I'm appreciative of that, because it means that they're protecting my interests, right? If it's like, oh yeah, whatever you need here, go ahead, then that's a little bit concerning to me, right? So I would just say be systematic in terms of how you work through it, and do whatever you need to do until you're satisfied, right? This is not about that person's convenience. This is about your peace of mind. So whatever you need to do to be satisfied, then you do that.
And somebody in the audience is just wondering if you could expand a little bit more kind of on this topic of identification. They're wondering particularly, how can we avoid identity theft?
So being very mindful about, let's say, for example, if you're receiving any type of documents that would have any type of personal information on it, I would strongly encourage for that information to be destroyed. So if you have a shredder, I have a shredder at home. So anytime I get any information, I'll shred that. Interestingly enough, my credit card went kaput. So the tap was no longer working, and I don't want to touch the point of sale terminal. So I had to request a card, and believe me, they put me through the gamut, which I was appreciative of, and I got a new card. So onto my shredder I go, which has that function to destroy an old credit card. So boom, destroy the credit card. Being mindful of the documentation that you carry with you, because perhaps maybe you just misplace something, or maybe you lose something. Having perhaps one piece of identification that would be sufficient. So maybe your driver's license and say your health card. But is there a need for you to have multiple identifications with you? Is there a need for you to be carrying your birth certificate? Is there a need for you to be carrying your passport with you? Um, is one credit card and one debit card sufficient, or is there a need to have many of them? And if you do, um, while it might be convenient to have the same PIN, that also makes it very convenient for the person who may end up getting their hands on it. So just being very mindful of the things that you're carrying and doing the things that you can to safeguard against it. So say, for example, instead of using like your birthday or your address, think of a word, for example, for your PIN. So like, for example, um, I love dogs. So my code, and this is not my code, I'm just right, roll with this on me. So let's say I like dogs. So then if you were to type dogs into a telephone, D would be 3, O would be 6, G would be 4, S would be 7. So I know that dogs is my PIN, but the number, like who's going to be able to remember an obscure number series like that as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4 or something along those lines. So little things like that, they make a big difference. But really just being mindful of any type of potentially compromising documentation is definitely going to serve to your benefit.
And just going back to the topic of the towing companies, somebody is wondering if some of our neighboring municipalities and regions would also have similar lists available if you had to call
Yes.
their services.
Yes. In fact, there's some communities, like the real proactive ones, the Niagara region being one of them, where they actually have like a licensing unit where in order for the tow company to operate in that jurisdiction, they actually have to be licensed in that municipality. Unfortunately, we don't have that here. It's not for a lack of effort, because those efforts were certainly made. But all services are going to have some type of safeguard in place. They're going to have some type of strategy in place where if they are dispatching a tow, right? And you can even confirm that and say, is this a police authorized tow, or is this what would be classified as a police tow? And those are going to be the companies that have willingly provided whatever information was required by police for vetting purposes. So they'll make sure, for example, their drivers are licensed to operate a motor vehicle, that their licenses are under some type of suspension, that there isn't any type of mechanical issues with the vehicle, that they're meeting all the prescribed standards of the Highway Traffic Act, that there is a specific fee schedule in place. So if you need a battery boosted, here's the fee. If you need a tire change, here's the fee. If you need a tow, here's the fee. So there's going to be little nuances depending on what jurisdiction you're in, but I'm pretty confident to say that some type of strategy is in place with any service. And you can always ask. There's nothing wrong with speaking to the communicator that you're talking to and say, this is what I have going on right now. Can I confirm with you that the tow company that you will dispatch to me is one that's been cleared and is, like an upstanding above board company.
And then we have another question that's come in here saying, is it dangerous to call the number back to see if it is legitimate?
Okay, so we're talking about like some type of a scam or something like that.
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Okay, so I would advise against it. And the reason why I would advise against it is that um, some of the criminals that are out there that will commit these financial crimes are very crafty, and they actually have technology to do something that's called spoofing. So say, for example, somebody calls me and I give them a piece of my mind and then hang up. And now that person's kind of got a little bit of a bone to pick with me. So they have the technology to use my phone number for the next person they call. And then all of a sudden I get someone calling me saying, how dare you call me and this, that, the other. I'm like, I didn't call you. But they have the technology to be able to kind of bounce their phone call through your telephone number. So my advice would just be, just don't answer. And to this point in time, I get those calls. People in my office get the calls all the time. I have yet to personally have a scammer call me and actually leave me a voicemail. Sometimes they might, right? But if you're getting somebody who's going to threaten you with an arrest warrant over the phone, that's just weird. That's not how we do business. So I would say just don't answer it, right? Or you can always call the non-emergency police line to say, look, this is what happened. Can you give me some advice on what to do? And if there's something that's very concerning, then perhaps the dispatcher may actually have an officer attend. Or if it's something where there wasn't anything problematic that occurred. So for example, the phone call was placed and you didn't pick up, or a voicemail was left and it's a concerning voicemail, there's nothing wrong with giving us a shout, and then we can offer up some clarification.
Now, someone had just actually asked a question about the non-emergency number. They're saying if they're on the road, how do they find that? So I'm guessing they maybe don't have data and aren't able to go to the website.
So obviously I would be saying just make sure that you're in a safe state. So your vehicle is stopped off the roadway. And perhaps it would be of benefit to program the number into your phone. So our non-emergency line, actually, you know what I'll do here? I will throw this into the chat function. I got this right, and this should do the trick. And what I'll also do is, and Garrett, bear with me here because I am using a government computer. Okay. And what do we got here?
So we'll have that. I mean, I was reading stuff today, and you never know, something might happen on the 21st.
So I'm going to give a secondary number as well.
And then our only concern is going to be the update, because the first people are going to go.
There we go.
Vaccines.
And yeah, so the last four digits, 4777, would or like if you go on our website and you look up Milton, Acton, Georgetown, along those lines, you see that 4777 number.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Actually, I'm going to throw in a third number as well here. So this would be more for North Halton. So 5511 and 4777 would be the preferable for anybody calling from Milton, the Milton Halton Hills area, Burlington and Oakville, the 4747. But I would say it would be of benefit to save those in your phone.
Now, I don't think those numbers have come through, so I don't know if maybe they were sent to someone in particular.
You know what? I sent those to somebody privately. So let me try this again. How about that? Now this should be to everyone. How about
there
that?
We go.
Boom. All right.
All right, and then we have time for one more question. And I think this was just a follow-up question. You were talking earlier about protecting identity on the phone and stuff. Somebody just said, what about online identity theft?
So in that case, that's typically going to be coming down to what you're providing. So if something is prompting you to enter in personal information or financial information, that's when it can be concerning. So the unfortunate thing is that you may receive emails, especially where it may look incredibly authentic, and just by a fluke, say, well, I don't have an account with Royal Bank. I don't have an account with TD. I don't have an account with Scotiabank. Oh, but I do have an account with CIBC. Oh, I do have an Optimum card with Shoppers. Oh, I do shop at Costco. So you might by a fluke get these kind of emails, or Amazon is a real common one too. But typically speaking, those businesses are not going to be sending out this, oh, your account's locked out, oh, your account's frozen, this, that, the other. So what I would say is, going back to that earlier strategy, if there's something concerning, call the actual place. So if you have the number for Costco, call Costco. If you have the number for your financial institution, call the financial institution, say, hey, this is what's going on. This seems kind of weird because it's asking me to log in and enter in this information or that information, or it's asking for my passport number or my birth certificate or something along those lines. That's not the way typically businesses are going to operate. They're not going to be just sending off some random email saying, hey, you're locked out and here you go, and we need you to log in. He'll conveniently use this hyperlink to log in and enter all this sensitive information. I would say go back to the detective approach and satisfy yourself. And personally, if I had a situation like that, I would be reaching out. I would be making a telephone call to whatever the place is, or let's say if it was a banking situation, for those that are comfortable with the online banking, go to your online account, because if there's something going on, there would be some type of an alert through that portal, the secure portal that you have to log on to, but go through. Don't use whatever is emailed to you. Go to whatever, maybe you have an icon on your computer, or you have an address saved on your computer. Go to that and then log on there, and then you'll know whether there's something true to it or not. Like even PayPal, sometimes we'll get something from PayPal saying that your account is this, that, the other. It's like, that doesn't make sense. So then I'll log on to my PayPal. It's like, no, there's nothing going on here. So is someone trying to scam me, right? We're all potentially vulnerable to it if we're not just being mindful of what's being presented to us. Don't just assume that everything is good to go on its face. Ask a couple questions, right?
Yeah, it's always good to follow up. Cybersecurity is definitely an increasing issue, and even here in our workplaces, we experience it as well. Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much. On behalf of the library, the Halton Age Friendly Network, and everyone who is here with us today, we appreciate you sharing all of your information and tips on frauds and scams, Constable Rocca.
That was my pleasure. Good, bad, or ugly, please pass along your feelings about the presentation, because community outreach is certainly one of my primary responsibilities. So if I can do a better job the next time, I'm happy to do it, but I won't know unless people tell me. So please reach out, good, bad, or indifferent. If there's something I can improve on, I will.
And if anyone missed any of the numbers that are coming up on screen, we did record today's presentation, and we are hoping to have it up on YouTube within a week. But you can also reach out to the library. We will be able to provide any of the information that was presented today as well.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And with that, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time, everyone. Take care now.
Bye, everyone.